Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news and knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in today. Well, just completed an interesting series of days down in St. Petersburg, Florida. We called it the Chelation Therapy Conference. It was the first of its kind ever held, and it served as the launching pad for the book, now in my possession for about 3 weeks now, entitled Chelation Therapy and Other Vital Detox Methods for Save Your Life. 16 authors, 16 very strong physicians and doctors of the book to the audience. Of course, all 16 of us were in the audience, and then there were a whole bunch of laypersons and non-clinician types that really rounded out the weekend. So I'm going to share with you the Chelation Therapy Conference wrap-up after we get past that first break today. Talk to you about some of the people that some of you know and some you don't know, many of which will be coming up as guests of ours in the up-and-coming days. So at least for the top of the show, I'll take charge. Now later on in the show, we're going to turn it over to you, as we normally like to do at any opportunity. And the number, of course, to call in and ask a question and make a comment is 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I will give that number additionally throughout the hour. So let's see how we can get this kicked off. Let's talk about our lineup. And really, I had my schedule book in front of me, and as I usually do, when I attend conferences, I'm literally waiting at the far end of the stage as the doctor comes off his presentation. I'm usually asking him if he wants to come on the show. Well, it wasn't as official as that, but I got a whole bunch of responses from docs. The first day is, and going to have a doctor who was not in attendance to the Chelation Conference. He is a optometrist, an eye doctor from the state of Washington, but he's been very involved and very influential in developing a therapy utilizing the ability to reverse cataracts quickly. Now, this is in keeping with our cataract clinic, which I'll be talking about in a moment, and Dr. Todd Wiley plays a large role in why I feel its time has come here for Pittsburgh. And we'll let the eye doctor talk to you all about his experience with correcting cataracts very rapidly, very definitively, and only the way that he can. It also turns out to be a very interesting day because it's on that day that we're holding our free seminar here in the office, Up-and-Coming Cataract Clinic, which I'll describe in detail here before too much longer this morning. Is going to be held on the 18, 19, 20, and 21, a 4-day clinic where we think we can reverse greater than 80% of the cataracts that we happen to see, and do so substantially. More about what the particular cataract clinic is going to offer this morning, as well as discussing it with Todd on the morning of the 4th. And then the free seminar, if you've got cataracts and you're worried about moving toward that surgery that your doctor keeps telling you about, and you don't think that's a good idea. By the way, I think it's a very healthy outlook, although this is usually framed as a no-brainer, no fuss, no muss, just go get the surgery done. There are problems with this surgery, and you should attempt to avoid it. Anyway, on the morning of the 4th, Todd Wiley will be our guest. On the evening of the 4th, if you'd like to be a part of our cataract clinic seminar, it's going to be held here in my office at 7 o'clock on May 4th in the evening. Give us a call here at 724-942-3002 and register with Sister Sarah. She'll guide you in here. Now, other guests for the month of May. Of course, the first Wednesday of the month will be none other than our version of Dr. Vava Vavoom, Dr. Susan Smith-Jones, who always occupies our presence here, her presence here on the 6th of May, the first Wednesday of the month. Then the following Monday, I met a good friend of mine. You've met him once before here, too. He's very much involved with ultraviolet blood irradiation. In fact, he has been the seller, a vendor, for the best unit I know of that's able to irradiate blood. We use his product. And back when we first launched ozone and ultraviolet blood irradiation, Tom Lowe was our guest. Now he's going to return, teaming up the famous ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy with now ozone units, and in particular those that are talking about in-home units for rectal insufflation. He's got a unit that is priced just right, and you want to hear all about it. That'll be on the 11th of May. Then the following week, John Tobridge, good friend of mine. He's from Houston, Texas, and he is one of literally the pioneers of chelation therapy. One of the talks that was presented at the chelation therapy workshop was so good, I had to bring him aboard, and Dr. John Tobridge will be our guest on the 18th of the month here. Now, Lee Cowden consented to come back. We've got him scheduled for the 27th of the month. And it's the strange thing about Lee, just let's say, very different. He is a board-certified cardiologist. And boy, the cardiology community must really feel that Dr. Lee Cowden has lost his way, because he is so conversant with alternative therapies. He gave a presentation on energetic therapies, blew me away, so much so I said, Lee, you got to come on the show and talk about your energy therapies as you use them and as you apparently teach others to use, because you certainly did a heck of a job here at the clinic. He agreed, and we'll have him here with us on the 27th. Just as another dangling carrot out there, I don't have him scheduled, but I'll let you know as soon as I do. David Minkoff is a physician, practices in the Clearwater, Florida area, and he specializes in Lyme's disease. In fact, I'm told that if you want to be treated by him, he'll make you move to Clearwater for 3 months. And he has such a rigorous but very definitive and wonderful way to turn around Lyme's disease that I've asked him to talk about it. And he will come aboard, he promised to. I just had to give him a chance to get back to Clearwater, which was not too far away. Probably better say I need to get back my own schedule book so that we can compare our books. And once I know, when I have him inked, I'll let you know, and we'll bring him aboard. So this is what normally happens when doctors go to conferences. They meet other friends and colleagues, and this show has benefited so much from the occasional time that I leave you to go learn something from a group of other doctors, and certainly happened this weekend at this event on the chelation therapy, a launching of a book. We've had the book in the office. You can purchase it here. It's a one-of-a-kind book. It's on the tails of the book that launched last July called The Top 20 Docs of Alternative Medicine. Here now are top doctors sharing an amazing stories why you need chelation therapy. And they're from folks who've been doing chelation therapy for 40 years. By the way, the godfather of chelation therapy. He's been on our show. His name is Dr. Gary Gordon. And he promises to come back. I'd never forget the show I did with Gary. I think I asked him one question. And he never stopped. He took over the whole show. And so he said he apologized for getting a little carried away, he said. And when he comes back, I think we'll be able to control him a little more to get some great information out of him, too. Dr. Gary Gordon was there at the inception of chelation therapy way back in the 1960s. As it first hit the scene, he was there, and he's watched it grow. He's added to the mix with his IV push use of calcium, EDTA, and well, we'll let him talk about it in person when he comes aboard. I don't have him scheduled yet either. He needed to get back to his schedule. He has a girl that does that. And okay, so I'll get in contact with the girl. And that's another up and coming guest. So what else? Okay, we've got a cataract clinic coming up on 18, 19, 20, and 21. We have not had a cataract clinic here in the office. We've been doing eye treatment programs, and we've had many patients with other retinal diseases like MACD and glaucoma and diabetic retinopathy have, along with their retinal diseases, they too also had disorders of the lens like cataracts. And we've had some good turnarounds. We've had some not so good turnarounds when using the famous ConDrive 3-day treatment program. Now, the cataract issue needs its own clinic during its own set of days because a group of therapies that are available to treat cataracts really are not a part of the ConDrive 3-day treatment programs. And we have put all of these together for those who feel they want to avoid getting a cataract surgery. I was trying to list out the components of the cataract clinic. And so these will be the pieces of the puzzle. I won't really describe them much today, but I'll give you an opportunity to at least learn what they are. Here they come. Obviously, the assessment. I talked to Dr. Lisa Bowen. She's going to be all in when it comes to this, and she'll actually take a look at that lens with the ophthalmoscope, as well as check visual acuities. These two components are probably the most important way to look at cataracts on the way into a program like this, as well as how to look at the progress and how well we've been able to help on the last day of the program. So she's all in. There will be a optometric evaluation done by Lisa day 1 and day 4. Heavy metals testing, a unique device. I first described this device way back when Jeff Leone, as he left Douglas Labs, he owned his family's owned Douglas Lab for years, left it. He did not leave the arena completely. He got involved with a device called an oligo scan. We're going to be talking about oligo scans, and we have one inbound to this office. It's going to, in an instant way, literally within 15 seconds, we can get a complete analysis of the tissue content of the heavy metals. It's a neat way that it happens, and I'll wait and do a special show on the oligo scan, but it will be part of the cataract clinic because heavy metals are what gets deposited on the lens. And we want to have an accurate way of assessing the metals on the way in, and want to see how we've been able to reverse and remove those metals, not just from the lens itself, but from the entire body. Now, another unique testing situation, and I will tell you that my presentation to the Chelation conference this past weekend, I think that my description of the mineral testing, the trace mineral testing that was originally presented to me by Ed Kane, he owns a company called Body Bio, really was the hit of show. I'll describe it on another day, but essentially by doing taste testing through 9 different minerals, you can find out which minerals you have not enough of and which ones you have too much of. Then you go about the issue of replacing them. But here's what happens. Not only do you replace the minerals that you lack, you literally chelate and remove the heavy metals of the body by doing it. And it's something you can do at home. There are many people that don't like the idea of IV chelation therapy, and there are some people that just do not have a physician, a clinician around them that is conversant with the use of IV and even oral chelation therapy. So we feel that this is a great thing to introduce. for those that are a little squeamish about doing an IV, as well as for those that just live too far away, and those that will come through Pittsburgh either in a 3-day program or this 4-day cataract program. They're going to need to be able to take this home. I'll talk about trace mineral testing, a neat way of reversing heavy metal depositions that collect on the lens. Then we'll have IVs, of course, and there will be 3 administering here. Vitamin C. Myers cocktail has about, I don't know, I think I counted up some 26 different items in the cocktail that we give IV. And then finally, hydrogen peroxide IV. There will be MCG testing because I'm interested in how well you can perfuse all the organs, but in particular the back of the eye. And MCG testing, which is multifunctional cardiogram, that we've had now for many years, appears to be one of those ways to do a pretty interesting screening. Just a couple minutes, fully clothed, lying on a bed, but we get a pretty good assessment of the coronary arteries, and in so doing, we learn how effective the heart is able to move blood around the system. And of course, the back of the eye is just one structure of many that needs to be getting its share of the blood supply, and MCG testing will help to focus in on it. FSM. We've made a full commitment with FSM. It will be a part of the cataract program. There are frequencies specifically designed to help correct cataracts and remove those toxic substances. And so we will use our machinery, our devices here, and spare the expense that the people in the 3-day program literally can't be spared from, but to use our devices over the 4 days here will afford people to get the benefit. And if they later decide to purchase a unit, that's is certainly okay in our book. And then the final thing, and I believe the newest entry into how we've learned to be able to reverse so much cataract disease is through use of what's called BEMER. It's BEMER. It is a device made in Germany, and it will be what Dr. Todd Wiley is going to be talking about on Monday, the 4th of May. It really looks as though it is revolutionizing the arena of reversing cataracts, where no one else has gone, where no therapy has ever gone before with these kind of results, called the BEMER. And our BEMER, I believe, is on its way here. Sort of funny, the connection between BEMER, spelled B-E-M-E-R, and an acronym for a BMW. So when I let my family know that we'd be getting a BEMER, they were a little lit up, pretty much smiling, thinking that the new vehicle will be in the driveway. When I informed them, no, not BEMER the car, BEMER the medical device, then things got quieted down pretty doggone quickly. Okay, I think that about does it for our opening today. Why don't we do this? Let's take a short break, folks. And when we come back, I'll try to give you a recap on our chelation therapy expose down in St. Petersburg Beach. Some of the interesting people that presented interesting topics as they were presented, and give you a full wrap-up of chelation therapy launch of the new book that we have in the office. Be right back. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you in the Monday morning version of the show, post the big conference held down in St. Petersburg, Florida on chelation therapy. I was honored to be a part of the book as well as the conference, and we'll share with you this morning some of my thoughts and some interesting things that were passed on between us down there, and give you an opportunity to come in and check on it and weigh in on the subject, this subject or any subject. To do so, as you should know by now, is to dial us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I'll hear you knock on the door, and I'll let you in the store. Meanwhile, I've just heard a knock. Come on in. Hello.
What's going on? It's Danville.
It's Danville. Danville, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. Hey, I got a question. No, I don't have any questions about chelation therapy, but I'm going to be, my wife wants to go out to Woodland Park, Colorado. This is at 8,200 feet, and I am, you know, you said I'm auto-suggestive at one time, but I'm already getting short of breath, and I'm still in Virginia, so I ain't going there now, but how much less oxygen is there at 8,000 versus, like, 3,000 or whatever? Less, right?
I can't give you the actual. Here, I'll give you an interesting perspective. I don't know if it's going to help you or not. You can look at this one of two ways, but you might not know this, but I am a licensed pilot. I've flown.
Really?
Oh, yeah, long time, many years. And in the flying game, as we all know it, oxygen, as we ascend and hit altitudes, becomes a critical factor. Now, the rules, the FAA has some specific rules about when we must have supplemental oxygen aboard, and we must use it at certain particular altitudes. The first altitude that weighs in on the rules is 10,000 feet. Now, at 8,200, you're getting close, huh? At 10,000 feet, the rule says you must have supplemental oxygen aboard, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's rule number one. The next threshold is 12,500 feet. And at 12,500 feet, you must have and use a supplemental oxygen aboard so as to ensure that you will not pass out. Because one thing about anoxia is there are no symptoms to it. I mean, you don't get like lightheaded for a little bit and then a little queasy for a little bit. It's like one moment you're with us, the next moment you're unconscious, and so you must be wearing a supplemental oxygen. Now look, you're going to 8,200 feet, which is a heck of a side difference, but still the drop-off of because of the altitude is that the air is much thinner up there. So do you have any medical issues? And my God, you got a plate full of medical issues, but do you have any issues regarding...
I don't have any medical issues. It's the mental mind that's the problem.
But do you have any breathing issues that play? Okay, so you should not become overly concerned with a trip to 8,200 feet because you aren't passing any of the thresholds that I have in my mind, at least. And at 8,200 feet, you should be just fine. Okay.
Right.
So enjoy. So why is if I might ask, I'm almost afraid. Why is it that your wife wants to go to, was it, you say Woodlawn?
Woodland Park. It's actually slightly north of Colorado Springs. Actually, there's a pastor friend, well, not a pastor, he has a Bible school out there. My wife got a master's degree from Liberty University, and she maybe wants to go out there and teach at this Bible school, but I also know that they say it takes about a week because your body will, your body will start producing more red blood cells. But I read one little website. They say people are having heart attacks up there like 40. But then again, they think. I drove over. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called the Eisenhower Tunnel, and it's west of Denver. That's at 11.5, and I drove over with the 6 kids screaming in the van. And I felt a little bit. But I didn't, I just didn't even really think about it. I just felt a little bit short of breath, but that was before I was really deep into having the anxiety attacks. But that's a lot different, 11.5 versus
heck yeah, a lot different. 1,000. And you did fine there, so just utilize that as your guide. You did okay at 11.5. You should do wonderful at 8.2. And get this little little quirk out. The wife of yours must want to go there awful bad. Because are you going to drive again? Because every time you do one of these trips, you actually get in your vehicle and traverse the country. You plan on doing it that way?
Yeah. We just drove to Houston to Joel Osteen's church and back. So I wanted to go see it because that's part of her studies. And man, let me tell you, that's a big church down there. Whatever. He's a nice guy, but whatever. But I'll tell you, 8,200, I can feel, I'm already, my heart rate.
No. Should do fine. But it is true, if you have compromise, if you have a coronary condition and you team chronic lung disease up with heart issues, and then you take an ascendancy to 8,200 abruptly, the people who live up there, you're right, you develop new red blood cells because you secrete a substance called erythropoietin. It stimulates the bone marrow to make new red blood cells. So in a way, if you live and raised up there, you've accommodated the issue of the hypoxia, the lack of oxygen, and you're fine. But if you live at sea level and you start running up to 8,200 feet or higher, and you have a compromised breathing situation teamed up with a cardiovascular issue, you're lighting a wick at both ends that you don't want to have to light. So I think that you'll be fine. When are you going to make the trip, Danville?
Maybe in about a month. We'll see. I had, and the funny thing, well, this isn't really funny. Remember the Enron guy? The Enron guy, I think, went to Colorado Springs or somewhere for his, this is after all the stuff went through with his business or whatever, and he went up there and he checked out. He died. They didn't know he had cardiovascular disease.
Oh.
Well, he went up to 82 or whatever, about that height, and he developed some kind of thrombus, and that was years ago. He's been dead years, but that was Kenneth Lay, and I think it was actually near this little Bible school. But I told my wife, I said, "Well, I'll get myself a little emergency oxygen thing." She said, "No, I need to calm down." I'm like, "That's right. That's a good way to put it."
By the way, I remember, because that's how Kenneth Lay
died.
Had his demise. I didn't realize.
He was great up until that point, and but he flew and this is what a friend of mine that lives, actually it's my wife's relative, a cousin. He said, no. If you're driving, if you just fly into Denver and then go up to these mountains, you got a problem. But he said, if you drive up from the East Coast, your body is very slowly, because it takes 2.5, 3 days to get there. Your body is slowly acclimating to raising in the altitude.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Danville, enjoy your trip. You can report back to us how things went at 82 when you return. Best of luck. Very safe driving for you and the family, my friend.
Okay. You have a great one, Doc.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Danville has just left the building. That's Danville. Every so often, folks. You know. This is what he does. All right, we're back with you. We're post-conference, post-Chelation therapy conference held in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we've still opened it up to you today. If you got a mind to come on in here, you can do so at any time and literally ask any question you would like on any subject. It's okay with me. The number to do that, as you should know by now, is to dial us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I'll listen for that knock on the door, and I'll let you in the store. Do we have another knock? Hello? I thought I heard a little tweak there. All right. So, St. Petersburg, Florida, Dr. Ed Condrut, once again, did a fantastic job. He tends to be able to put these events together with regularity. And so he's the one that put the Top Doc thing together last July. Lo and behold, he's the one that puts the chelation therapy together. All spills off of, I think it spills off of the radio show that he does KFXN, which is in Phoenix, Arizona. And he, as do I, have a list of wonderful guests for a long period of time. And then he gets a little quirk and makes a decision. He made this decision on his own and moved into the arena of chelation therapy. Chelation therapy has come into its own. Chelation therapy essentially, for two different reasons as I saw it and as I gave my presentation. The first way that chelation therapy got introduced to us in the United States went all the way back into the 1950s, when at the time it was used to treat lead poisoning in the shipyards, post-World War II shipyards, where they were refurbing the large ships that had to be refurbed after World War II. Now, at the time, the only paints that were available were all lead-based paints. And so can you imagine painting an aircraft carrier with lead paint? People were being consumed and dropping over like flies from lead poisoning at that point. And so there was something needed to rescue these ill patients who had heavy metal toxicity from lead because of working with paint that was lead burdened. Anyway, EDTA, which came from Germany, turned out to do a fantastic job at alleviating the heavy metal burden of these afflicted. But in so doing, doctors who were working on that project noticed something else. And what they noticed was that other issues were being corrected at the same time. Because these were a group of men who, as any middle-aged male, would be having their cardiovascular issues develop, their hypertension develop, their congestive heart failure develop. So all this was happening in a population that just normally would be showing us cardiovascular disease anyway, but at the same time they were being overcome with lead. Well, what happened was that the doctors, some of them, who participated in treating those patients for their lead, noticed that they were getting much better from their cardiovascular diseases. Pressure medicines before, all of a sudden they didn't need to be on blood pressure medicines anymore, and their condition was reversed. This became a interesting sidelight, and some doctors, as they saw it, felt this was the avenue that needed to be pursued, because there evidently is a much greater potential to use EDTA, which is the name of the substance that helps remove the lead, for things other than the lead than for the lead itself. It became quite obvious to those few doctors who were interested in the cardiovascular benefits of EDTA that there was to be no conclusions drawn, no articles written concerning this cardiovascular benefit, and it was not stated in esoteric terms. It was hit point blank. These doctors, however, would not be deterred, and as that particular treatment program ended, they began to pursue EDTA from its cardiovascular benefit, and voila, chelation therapy, in particular EDTA, IV chelation therapy, had its inception from the 1950s forward. Take up on that in the 1960s. Dr. Gary Gordon, we call him the godfather of chelation therapy, because he was there at that time as a young physician starting out and has now watched this thing grow over so many years. But once they developed a set of protocols that everybody could follow, and an organization ultimately developed in the early 1970s that allowed for the rules to be written that can follow to this very day with little change. So back when, in the early 1960s, when they were trying to come up with protocols, the protocol that emerged stays with us today. Every IV, or every doctor who does IV chelation therapy follows the same protocol, and I say they need to follow it to the letter, and in so doing, people get a cardiovascular benefit. That cardiovascular benefit is substantial in that it is possible to remove a substantial amount of plaque from the inside of blood vessels utilizing IV chelation therapy. I keep on mentioning, and I'll bring her up one more time because in my early days of doing IV chelation therapy, I actually didn't know what a powerful tool I had until, and this is in the mid-90s, a patient came to me with a severe occlusion of the carotid arteries. So much so that she had been told by her doctors that she needed to have a surgery to remove plaque from the carotids, and it just scared the heck out of her. So she approached me and said, "Dr. Courtney, you got to help me. I'm advised that I should have a surgery." By the way, the name of the surgery is called carotid endarterectomy. And she said, "I don't want to have it." And I said, "Well, you know, that's because you got too much plaque in those vessels. By the way, how much do you have?" And then she reported to me, "Well, they tell me that I have greater than 90% occlusion of the coronary arteries, excuse me, the carotid arteries." And my response to her was, "You better get that surgery fast. The doctors who are recommending this are doing it appropriately. You have let this thing go, whether it was known to you or unknown to you, for way too long." She still pleaded and begged, "Can there be something that you can do? I just can't have that surgery." And so I made a deal. My deal was this. I said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. For the next 6 weeks, you're going to chelate using EDTA chelation therapy 3 times a week," meaning at the end of 6 weeks, that'll be 18 IV chelation therapy sessions that you completed. And at that time, you're going to go back and you're going to get another Doppler study of the carotids, and we're going to find out, has there been any change in the amount of plaque in those arteries? To be quite honest with you, at the time, I knew there would be benefit. I just didn't know how much benefit. And so my deal with her was, if it should turn out that you haven't had a major turnaround in the amount of plaque in those arteries, then you have to promise me that you will go get the surgery that has been proposed, because at that point I won't even, by the way, I won't even start chelation therapy until you promise. I guess she, at the end of it, really didn't have to keep her end of the bargain, but that's how we entered it to begin with. Anyway, 6 weeks after we begin, she does her part. She gets chelated 3 times a week. And then she goes and gets a repeat study. And it's then, and I keep on remembering her and the case that she brought to me, her own personal case. What was 90% 6 weeks earlier had been whittled down to 47%, which in my mind was substantial improvement, and certainly took her out of the need to have a surgery done. She was completely elated about it, so was I, and she continued with chelation therapy for many years afterwards, never requiring to have that surgery again. So that was my first introduction to how potent a force EDTA chelation therapy can be for cardiovascular disease, and it certainly was the starting point for EDTA chelation at that time. What came along later, it actually made sense that it should be beforehand, but it actually came along later, was the use of EDTA chelation therapy for heavy metal burden, and in particular for lead. So what really turned out to benefit all those workers who were working on in the shipyards never got formalized into a protocol until much later, because they were getting IV chelation with EDTA, but they weren't getting it because of any cardiovascular benefit that they required. They needed to get rid of their lead, and it did a fine job. And so in a parallel track, ever since that time, 2 substantial ways of looking at chelation therapy have emerged. One, it still continues to be the #1 way to remove plaque on the inside of arteries, and has no equal when it comes to being able to do that. And number 2, it plays a role along with other chelating agents as probably the major pharmaceutical preparation to remove lead and other metals. Some metal it has have no affinity for binding on to EDTA. Others do, but if there's one that actually does, it is lead, and it has worked its way into the mainstream of medicine to the extent that if you were to be toxic, acutely toxic, that's the only time that the conventional medical community thinks about using EDTA. They do not recognize chronic toxicity that we do, and such. They're really lost when it comes to this. So, Dr. Kondrat said, let's put a book together. At least he didn't ask me. He just said, let's do it. I'm doing it. And he had interviewed all 16 of the doctors on his radio show at KFXN in Phoenix. And it was just a natural to take our interview and transcribe it. And literally what happened was a book was literally put together overnight from the radio shows that Ed has done. And of course, the book being published is nothing more than Dr. Kondrat interviewing the 16 of us and getting our take on how we look at chelation therapy. And some very interesting approaches have emerged, and certainly have opened my eyes when it comes to chelation therapy in general, because there's so many other ways. I think that's the take-home message that the doctors, certainly I left with, as well as the lay people in the audience left with. EDTA chelation, where it all started, is still out there. It's still being done. It still does a fantastic job. It can now be given either orally or intravenously. And for those doctors who want to pursue it, it has remained a staple item for all these years. But I think we've learned from this conference, and I think you want to get a copy of this book, are the myriad of ways other than IV forms of chelation that you can utilize to remove these heavy metal burdens, which in many cases are as effective, and in some cases even more effective than the actual pharmaceutical substance to begin with. As I told the doctors in the audience, one of the points that I made during my presentation, and remember, these are all the movers, the groovers, and the shakers of medically used EDTA and other forms of pharmaceuticals throughout the country. And my point to them was, look, you approach your patients and you boast about the fact that as an integrative doctor, you rarely, if ever, use medicines. And I think that's a staple item that all of us, certainly I do not use medicine. Don't prescribe medicines. Patients come to me, as they do to all the other doctors who participated in this program, and one of the very first things that they ask of us is, look, I'm already on medicines. Can you help me get off of them? And we take pride in correcting the problem, and ultimately they don't need the medicine, and they're essentially improved and better. So for the group of doctors in the country most known for their chelating ability, my challenge to them was, look, I know that these drugs, these pharmaceuticals, can work well, but I believe it is, in a way, hypocritical to, on the one hand, claim that you are a doctor who doesn't use medicines, and as a rule will do anything to avoid them, yet when it's something like chelation therapy, it's the very first thing that you think of using, and there are consequences, as there is with use of any drug or any pharmaceutical, to utilizing chelation therapy in that way. So I said, hey, there are plenty of other ways that you can deal with metals and not need to use those substances. I think if I heard one comment from the audience as I came off the stage and for the day or two afterwards, was that they felt that there was a great way now that they could avoid IV. They do not like IVs. They want to see if they can do it another way, and they felt that one of the ways that I proposed, as well as what many of the other doctors did was come in with their unique over the many years, and they too have had ways that they remove heavy metals without using these substances again. So chelation therapy no longer is synonymous with EDTA, DMPS, DMSA, as I'd have to say that as little time ago as 10 or 15 years ago, it was always synonymous with the use of IV and oral drugs. Today, so many different ways exist to be able to remove metals that we no longer have to think in those terms. And I thank Dr. Conrad for putting a conference together so well that that message came across to all of us as doctors in the room, as well as those fortunate people who are lay people and also participated in the conference. I know they enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a part of it. Another Ed Conrad Success Chelation Therapy book is available here in the office. I'm not so sure the cost. I think it's $25. Anyway, it is a collector's item. It's a one of a kind. We now have them. We've had them for 3 weeks, but this is really the time to unveil them. The conference just ended yesterday at about 2 o'clock. Okay, let's switch some gears. Let's do this. I think a very important point, even with 8 minutes, 10 minutes to go, is to take a short break. Let you switch gears too. Look, if you got a mind to call and ask a question, this is the perfect time to do it. 412-825-6262 is that number. That's 412-825-6262. We will be back in just a moment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health here on the Monday morning version of the show. We're in the gun lap portion of the show. We're coming around the home stretch, and you may just want to weigh in on a number of items, chelation related or not. The number to do that, if you get a mind to, is to dial us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Let's see what's on your mind. Even with a short amount of time left, we'll try to get an answer to you, or if not, steer you in the right direction to get that answer. This is the time frame that putting together the cataract clinic and all the unique ways and get them turned around so that people can get this off of their thinking process. Many of them come to me and they want to avoid that surgery, and they're looking for ways to be able to do just that. Now, we've taken an approach utilizing the 3-day Ed Conrad program, and there's been some of our patients, but besides being treated for their MACD or their glaucoma, did a substantially great job of getting their cataracts turned around too. But the level of response for the cataracts has not been as good as it has been for the retinal problems like the MACD and the glaucoma and the like. So now I believe we're moving into the arena with the modalities that we have and some new devices that we have to actually have similar results that we have been expecting to get with the retinal diseases also now available to alleviate the issue of cataracts. That's how the program comes together on 18, 19, 20, and 21 of the month. And if you want to hear more about it, you're invited to the free seminar on May 4th at 7 o'clock. Give us a call here, 724-942-3002. We got a knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard. What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hello. I know who I'm speaking to.
Well, I was very interested in hearing your report on interested in the part where you were talking about minerals, and that if you take minerals, you actually sleep.
Ah, yes.
Could you a bit more about what you heard?
Yeah, actually, the very essence of the message you just bring to us was the message that I took. It wasn't what I heard, it's what I taught. And it turned out to really resonate with doctors. I had doctors come up to me, the bread and butter doctors who for years have been doing chelation therapy and thought they were really intrigued by how you can deal by giving minerals. By the way, I've got the test kit right in front of me, and the minerals that you need to use, here they are, and there's 9 minerals, and they are, I'm trying to find, I'm getting them out. I'll just come up with the names. One is zinc, potassium, manganese, copper, molybdenum, chromium, magnesium, and what's this one? Selenium, and finally iodine. With those 9 minerals, you can A, take care of your mineral deficiencies and correct them. But at the same time, you can unburden a substance called metallothionein. Metallothionein is your body's own natural, and the substance which hook onto your zincs and your copper and your chromium and things like that. Unfortunately, over time, the metallothionein gets saturated with things like lead and mercury and cadmium, and you can't even get the metals that you want back onto the doggone things. So now by taking trace minerals that I've just described, you can A, knock off and remove the heavy metal from the metallothionein, and you can re-hook the healthy trace mineral back to where it needs to be. And that's my answer in a nutshell, and I hope it was understood.
Indeed. In fact, could I ask you one other thing?
Go ahead.
If you're deficient in phosphorus, how does that affect?
Well, every one of, if you look at an elemental chart, where there are 107 different elements there, okay? And except for the radioactive ones, and even in some cases the radioactive ones, you probably need 90 of the 105 elements for some enzyme system in your body. Phosphorus, by the way, is not a minimal player. It's a major player. So I don't put phosphorus or zinc or chromium or any of the other ones in a higher level of prominence than I would phosphorus, because there are enzyme systems. They're going to require phosphorus in order to be able to function properly, and if it's not there, that enzyme system will not permit the metabolic reaction to occur. You need these elements, these minerals, to let all reactions occur as the body has planned for them. And when you don't have them, your systems, your metabolic systems get completely gunked up. You can't have the metabolic reactions occur. Phosphorus is no different than any other one in that regard.
Well, thank you very much indeed. You're very helpful.
Okay, look forward to seeing you soon. There you go. Okay, we're right here at the gun. Well, that chopsticks is going to come coming up. Let's just say, come on, give us a call and find out more about our the cataract program. I know that this one has plagued many of our listeners. It's the most common eye disorder I hear of, and people, you don't want to have that surgery. You want to try to avoid it, and there's a way to do it. Give us a call at 724-942-3002 and come on to the conference we're holding. A clinic on the cataract clinic, going to be held 7 o'clock on May 4th. I'll be talking about it more as time moves on. I want you to enjoy today. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you, Bill, for the chopsticks. And until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for an impact on your health.